Welcome, rare gems. What happens when a woman who values her own space and strength is ignored? Most people assume she would feel crushed, desperate, or shaken. But that is far from the truth when it comes to a Sigma female. Being ignored does not break her spirit. Instead, it activates a part of her that thrives in silence and feeds off resilience. A Sigma female is not someone who wastes energy chasing recognition or begging for acknowledgement. If someone overlooks her, she does not spiral into insecurity. She studies the moment, understands the message, and then redirects her focus towards something that truly matters. This quiet shift is what makes her stand out. Where others may crumble under neglect, she transforms it into fuel for growth. If you are a Sigma female, know this. Every time you are ignored, it is not a reflection of your worth, but of the other person's inability to recognize it. You are not powerless in these moments. In fact, you hold the upper hand because you decide how to respond. You can choose to step back, grow sharper, and build in silence while those who overlooked you wonder what happened. This topic is not about revenge. It is about showing you how a Sigma female's reactions are different, strong, and often shocking to those who expect weakness. So if you have ever been ignored, this will remind you of the quiet power you carry and why being overlooked is sometimes the biggest blessing in disguise. Let's dive into it, the rare gems. Number 1. She becomes sharper, redirecting the energy toward her projects. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not waste her energy trying to chase the person who pulled away. Instead, she sharpens her focus and channels that very energy into her own projects, passions, or goals. Where some people crumble under the weight of being overlooked, she turns it into a weapon that fuels her growth. Picture someone deciding to brush her off, thinking it will shake her confidence. Instead of sulking or replaying the scenario in her head 100 times, she might dive straight into her work, start a new project she has been delaying, or even build something that pushes her further ahead in life. In a strange way, being ignored becomes her wake-up call, a reminder that she should pour her time into things that will last, not people who treat her as optional. This response often shocks those who ignore her. They expect her to shrink, but she only expands. Imagine a friend pulling back from her, thinking she will chase after them. Instead, she uses the space to launch a business idea, learn a new skill, or strengthen her independence. By the time the person realizes she did not fall apart, she has already grown into an even stronger version of herself. This is why ignoring a Sigma female rarely works as intended. What was meant to weaken her ends up making her sharper. She transforms neglect into momentum, and those who once overlooked her eventually find themselves looking back in disbelief at how far she has moved forward without them. Number 2. She recognizes neglect as data, not rejection. When most people are ignored, they immediately take it personally. They start questioning themselves, wondering what they did wrong, or why they are not good enough. A Sigma female does not operate that way. She does not see neglect as a verdict on her worth. She sees it as information. To her, being ignored is data. It tells her something about the other person's priorities, consistency, and respect level. Think of it like a scientist observing an experiment. If someone stops replying to her messages, she does not spiral. Instead, she notes the behavior. This is how they handle communication. This is how they treat someone who has been nothing but real with them. She processes it like a fact rather than an insult. That small shift in perspective gives her an incredible advantage. Instead of losing confidence, she gains clarity. For example, let's say she's working with a colleague who suddenly starts brushing her off. While another person might chase after approval, she simply steps back and observes. If the silence continues, she knows it is a sign that the partnership was never genuine in the first place. If the person later comes back with excuses, she already has her answer because she has collected enough data about their character. This approach saves her from unnecessary emotional chaos. By treating neglect as data, she is able to separate her value from someone else's inconsistency. And that makes her reactions shocking, because the very tactic of ignoring her ends up giving her the clarity she needs to move on without regret. Number 3. She channels the frustration into creativity. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not allow frustration to eat away at her. Instead, She turns it into a tool. That sharp sting of being overlooked becomes fuel for her creativity, pushing her to produce, to build, and to express herself in ways that catch people off guard. Think about artists, writers, or entrepreneurs who have been dismissed or ignored at some point. Many of them used that very feeling to create their most powerful work. A Sigma female has the same instinct. If she feels the weight of neglect, she does not collapse under it. She channels it. The pain becomes art. The silence becomes strategy. The rejection becomes a new idea she pours her energy into. Imagine she is ignored by someone close to her. Instead of chasing after them, she might sit down with her journal and pour her emotions onto paper, eventually shaping those raw thoughts into something profound. Or she might channel that same energy into her business, staying up late to design something better, stronger, and more polished than before. What could have broken her instead pushes her to produce something lasting. What shocks people is how effortlessly she transforms neglect into creation. They expect her to sulk, but she produces. They expect her to fade, but she shines even brighter. And often the very people who ignored her are later forced to witness the results of the energy they once dismissed. For the Sigma female, frustration is never wasted. She knows that being ignored is painful, but instead of letting it drain her, she allows it to sharpen her creativity. And that creative transformation is her most unexpected and powerful response. Number 4. She leverages the space to upgrade herself. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not waste that empty space on frustration. She sees it as an opening, a gap she can fill with her own growth. Instead of asking why someone is silent, she asks herself what she can do with the silence. This shift in mindset makes her incredibly powerful because neglect no longer drains her, it elevates her. Think about it. Imagine she has been waiting for someone's response, but nothing comes. While others might spend the evening replaying the silence in their head, she may use that time to finally pick up the book she has been meaning to read, work on her craft, or pour energy into her own projects. What was meant to sideline her becomes her stage for advancement. This is why ignoring her often backfires. The more space people give her, the more she grows in it. For instance, a friend pulling away might think she will chase them. Instead, she invests in her fitness, her career, or her personal goals. By the time the person looks back, she has already leveled up. They return expecting the same woman they left, only to find someone who has sharpened her edges and strengthened her core. This response is shocking, because most people use silence to shrink. She uses it to expand. Being ignored becomes her motivation, pushing her to stretch further than she might have if she had been entertained or validated. For a Sigma female, space is never wasted. It is transformed. And the growth she achieves in that time becomes her silent answer to anyone who thought she would break under neglect. Number 5. She puts the relationship on probation without announcement. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not lash out or start an argument. She quietly puts the relationship on probation. This means she mentally shifts it into a testing phase without ever saying a word. From that point on, she watches with sharper eyes and listens with deeper awareness. She wants to see if the silence was temporary, or if it is a sign of something deeper. Unlike others who might openly complain or demand clarity, she does not reveal her hand. She does not warn the other person that they are under review. She simply adjusts her energy, lowers her expectations, and observes what comes next. If the behavior continues, the relationship slowly loses its importance in her life. If the person makes an effort to correct it, she may allow it back into full strength. Imagine being friends with a Sigma female and suddenly ignoring her messages. You might think she has not noticed or that she has brushed it off. In reality, she has already made a mental note. She will not beg for your time or push for your attention. She is simply waiting to see what you do next. And once she sees enough, her decision will be final. This quiet probation shocks people, because they often do not realize they have been tested until it is too late. They only notice when her energy has shifted, when her responses become minimal, or when she simply no longer cares. By then, the connection has already been downgraded in her mind. For the Sigma female, silence is never ignored. It is recorded, stored, and used to determine the true value of a relationship. And once she makes her decision, there is rarely a second chance. Number 6. She turns the cold shoulder into an experiment. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not see it as an end. She often sees it as the beginning of an experiment. Instead of reacting with hurt or anger, she treats the silence as a test. She wants to see how long someone can go without her presence and what that reveals about their true nature. This is not manipulation. It is observation. For her, neglect opens up a space where people show their authentic behavior without pressure. If someone is genuinely invested in her, they will eventually notice her absence and reach out. If they do not, it becomes clear they were never as connected as they once appeared. Imagine she stops reaching out to a friend after being ignored. Days turn into weeks. That friend may expect her to cave and send a message first, but she will not. She is watching. If the friend never checks in, she knows the relationship was one-sided. If they do, she gains insight into how much they value her. Either way, she wins because the truth is revealed without her having to demand it. What makes this reaction shocking is her patience. Most people cannot sit in silence for long. They either explode with anger or beg for attention. A Sigma female has the discipline to let the silence stretch. She knows that in that quiet gap, masks fall off and true colors show. By treating the cold shoulder as an experiment, she protects herself from false connections. She does not guess, she gathers evidence. And once the results are clear, she makes her decisions without hesitation. Number 7. She keeps her dignity intact by refusing to chase. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not go into panic mode, flooding someone with messages or trying to force their attention. She understands that chasing after people who deliberately turn away only lowers her own value. Instead, she protects her dignity by standing still. Her silence becomes her statement. Think about how many people lose control when they feel neglected. They send long emotional messages, call repeatedly, or even beg for explanations. All of this gives power to the one who is ignoring them. A Sigma female refuses to hand over that kind of control. If someone chooses silence, she allows them to stay silent. She knows that if a person truly values her, she should not have to drag that value out of them. Picture a coworker ignoring her contributions during a group project. Instead of arguing or demanding acknowledgement, she lets her work speak for itself. Eventually, others will notice the effort she put in, and the person who ignored her is left exposed. Or in personal relationships, if someone stops reaching out, she does not fight it. She simply lets the distance remain. Over time, the one who created the gap begins to feel its weight, while she remains unshaken. This restraint often shocks people because they expect a reaction. They expect her to fight for attention. Instead, she responds with calm detachment. Her lack of chasing sends a stronger message than any words could. It shows she is not desperate, and that her self-respect outweighs her desire for anyone's approval. For a Sigma female, silence is not weakness. It is self-respect wrapped in strength, and by refusing to chase, she always keeps her dignity intact. Number 8. She invests the neglected energy into new opportunities. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not spend her days wondering why. She knows that energy wasted on unanswered questions can be redirected into something that brings real results. Instead of sitting in confusion, she invests that neglected energy into opportunities that actually value her presence. Think about it. If a person withdraws, she does not keep pouring effort into a dry well. She looks for places where her attention can grow into something meaningful. This might be a career move, a new friendship, or even a personal project she had been postponing. Being ignored simply reminds her to shift her focus to places that will bear fruit. Imagine she is ignored by someone she trusted. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt, she might decide to use that energy to learn a new skill, network with people who appreciate her, or strengthen her financial independence. By doing so, she turns rejection into redirection. The silence of one person becomes the starting point of an opportunity that eventually moves her forward in life. What shocks people most is that while they expect her to be stuck, she is already advancing. Those who ignore her often return to find that she has grown while they stood still. And at that point, Reconnecting with her is no longer easy because she has moved into circles where her value is recognized and rewarded. For the Sigma female, neglect does not trap her. It frees her. It gives her time and energy to plant seeds in places that will bloom. And by the time others realize what they lost, she has already stepped into new doors that silence helped her discover. Number 9. She quietly raises her standards. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not lower herself to beg for scraps of attention. Instead, she quietly raises her standards. She makes a mental shift that says, if you cannot value me, then you no longer qualify for this level of access. What shocks people is that she does this without making any announcements, no dramatic speeches, no warnings. She simply upgrades her expectations and keeps moving. Think about friendships. If she reaches out to someone consistently and they keep brushing her off, she does not keep trying harder. She does not lower her standards to match their neglect. Instead, she withdraws her energy and silently repositions them further down her priority list. She invests more in the people who reciprocate and less in the ones who do not. And the person being ignored rarely notices the shift until it is too late. In relationships, the same rule applies. If a partner chooses to ignore her presence, she uses that neglect as a measuring stick. It tells her how much they are really willing to give. If their effort falls short, she raises her bar and decides that only someone capable of meeting it deserves her time. This quiet upgrade often shocks people because they assume they can come and go as they please. They do not realize that while they were ignoring her, she was adjusting her standards upward. By the time they return, she has already moved beyond them, and what they once had is no longer available. For the Sigma female, neglect is never just an insult. It is a signal, and that signal reminds her to demand more, not less, from those allowed into her life. Number 10. She finds power in absence. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not try to force her presence where it is not wanted. Instead, she finds power in absence. She understands that sometimes the loudest statement is not made with words, but with complete withdrawal. By pulling her energy back, she lets her absence do what her presence no longer needs to prove. Imagine someone ignoring her texts or calls. Instead of sending repeated messages, she disappears into her own world. Days pass, and the person who thought her silence would hurt her begins to notice the emptiness left behind. They realize that her absence carries more weight than her presence ever begged for. The shock comes when they discover that while they expected her to chase, she has already stepped back with calm strength. In friendships, this plays out when she stops showing up where she is not valued. She will not announce it. She will not explain. She simply becomes unavailable. Suddenly, the group that once took her for granted feels the difference. They start to notice the gaps she filled without fanfare, and they learn the cost of ignoring her. This approach unsettles people because most are used to others fighting to stay relevant in their lives. The Sigma female does the opposite. She steps away and lets her absence speak. And more often than not, that absence echoes louder than any confrontation could. For her, being ignored is never the end of the story. It is the beginning of a quiet withdrawal that leaves others questioning why they ever overlooked her in the first place. Number 11. She doesn't confront immediately, but observes patterns quietly. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not rush into confrontation. She knows that reacting too quickly often gives the other person unnecessary power. Instead, she chooses patience. She steps back, takes note, and carefully watches how the situation unfolds. For her, one ignored message or a moment of silence is not enough to draw conclusions. What matters is the pattern that follows. Imagine a friend who suddenly starts responding with short answers or takes days to reply. While most people might instantly send multiple messages asking what went wrong, the Sigma female holds her ground. She waits. She pays attention to whether this is a one-time slip or the beginning of a consistent behavior. By observing patterns, she avoids unnecessary drama and allows people to reveal who they really are without her forcing it. This quiet observation unsettles people who expect her to demand answers. Instead of begging for attention, she studies actions. If someone is truly busy, their consistency will eventually show. If they are deliberately ignoring her, that will also surface with time. She understands that patience exposes truth more effectively than confrontation ever could. For example, in relationships, a Sigma female might notice her partner pulling back. Instead of exploding with accusations, she simply tracks how the distance grows. If neglect becomes routine, she knows it is not an accident but a choice. That clarity gives her the strength to decide without guilt. Her calmness in these situations shocks people. They expect anger, but she gives silence. They expect confrontation, but she gives observation. In doing so, she collects the evidence she needs, making her decisions unshakable and her reactions unforgettable. Number 12. She interprets silence as exposure. When a Sigma female is ignored, she does not see it as confusion. She sees it as exposure. Silence often reveals more about a person than words ever could, and she knows how to read between the gaps. Ignoring her exposes priorities, exposes hidden intentions, and exposes who truly values the connection versus who only pretended to. Picture a colleague who suddenly stops including her in important discussions. While others might scramble to win back favor, she calmly steps back and observes. That silence exposes whether the colleague respects her or whether they only saw her as useful when convenient. She does not need a confession. Their lack of inclusion already tells the story. In personal relationships, it works the same way. If a partner starts pulling away without explanation, she interprets that silence as a form of honesty. It exposes where their heart really is. People can lie with words, but silence rarely lies. To her, being ignored is not about feeling invisible. It is about uncovering truths that were hidden in plain sight. This reaction often unsettles people because they underestimate how much she learns from silence. They think that by ignoring her, they are controlling the narrative. What they do not realize is that she is quietly collecting information. Every unanswered call, every delayed response, every avoidance becomes part of the bigger picture. By the time she is ready to act, she already knows more than they intended to reveal. And that is what shocks people the most. They thought silence kept her in the dark, but in reality it exposed everything she needed to know. In final words, being ignored is one of the most uncomfortable feelings a person can experience. For many, it feels like rejection, like a blow to their worth. But for the Sigma female, it is something entirely different. Each of these 12 reactions shows that neglect does not shrink her, it reshapes her. She does not break when overlooked, she sharpens. She does not collapse under silence, she studies it. She does not waste her energy on those who withdraw, she reinvests it into herself. This is what makes the Sigma female stand apart. Where others see neglect as defeat, she sees it as data, as an experiment, as a mirror that reveals what words often try to hide. Every cold shoulder becomes a test of character. Every ignored call becomes a message in itself. Every empty space becomes a canvas she uses to create something extraordinary. And here is the encouragement for you if you recognize yourself in her story. Never let being ignored convince you that you are not valuable. Silence does not define you, it reveals them. Every moment someone chooses not to see you is a chance for you to see yourself more clearly, to raise your standards, and to walk away stronger than before. In the end, the Sigma female's reactions shock people because they expect weakness but meet strength. They expect desperation but meet dignity. And that is her quiet victory. Her silence is not emptiness. It is power disguised as calm. And anyone who ignores her eventually learns that being overlooked was never her loss. It was theirs. Thank you for watching The Rare Gems, and God bless you.